Business review. Thank you very much for being there. So yes, was supposed to go to the senior national team, but the players announced by President Adam Barrow at State House, the money amounting to a little over $11 million was instead presented to the team manager, who turned up without the players. Well, we have an official of the Gambia Football Federation. We will discuss this a little later. This money row, really, it is still festering. Away from that, Senior Police Commissioner rejects redeployment to Basse. Former Police Commissioner for URR, that's the Upper River Region, Famara Jalo, has told the other ruminants continue to surge in the area. The committee is currently probing allegations by Woodley East natives who petitioned the National Assembly to investigate police reluctance to stop animal theft in the area. Was arrested for alleged involvement in the Dur Cham coup of 2006, but was not tortured as suggested by TRRC witness and veteran politician MC Cham. So they are dismissing that claim there. Now let's see what point is reporting on. Taxpayer fine to pay. Dr. Cisse urges government to establish anti-corruption institution. Adama Ture, a taxpayer, was sentenced by the Bundu Magistrates Court on Monday, 21st of June 2021 for assaulting an enforcement officer of the Gambia Revenue Authority. He was fined $50,000 after he pleaded guilty to 2 counts there. Also, court on the magistrate granted there. Dr. Cisse urges government to establish anti-corruption commission. Dr. Ismail Cisse, the leader and standard bearer of the opposition alliance for Citizens Alliance, has urged the government of the Gambia to establish an anti-corruption institution as part of measures to fight corruption and its related activities in the country. That will be the end of the newspapers. Let's take a short break. When we return, we will bring you some of the stories we have.
When they're victorious. But before that, the volleyball have been here. This under, well, not this, but another under 20 have been here in the previous times as well. But all that indicates one thing: government's commitment to the development of sports in the country and to the empowerment of young people. And if anything, all the results have indicated that despite all the investments and all the efforts that have been done in the previous time, what we are receiving now in the area of sports coming from the government is more compared to any other times in the future. He knows very well, because he's a sport enthusiast, that you never get results if you don't invest in sports. Government recognizes that, and that's why they're putting in extra efforts, extra money, to see to it that our teams get not everything they need, but most of the things that are needed. But that also, we are not going to focus on one sport or sporting discipline. We're going to look at all the other sports that have been done. This is not the first time that our national teams have been invited to the State House. During my time, the volleyball have been here. This under, well, not this, but another under 20 have been here in the previous times as well. But all that indicates one thing: government's commitment to the development of sports in the country and to the empowerment of young people. And if anything, all the results have indicated that despite all the investments and all the efforts that have been done in the previous time, what we are receiving now in the area of sports coming from the government is more compared to any other times in the future. He knows very well, because he's a sport enthusiast, that you never get results if you don't invest in sports. Government recognizes that, and that's why they're putting in extra efforts, extra money, to see to it that our teams get not everything they need, but most of the things that our national teams have been invited to the State House. During my time, I've been here with the under 20 when they came back from Senegal and when they were victorious. But before that, the volleyball have been here. This under, well, not this, but another under 20 have been here in the previous times as well. But all that indicates one thing: government's commitment to the development of sports in the country and to the empowerment of young people. And if anything, all the results have indicated that despite all, is more compared to any other times in the future. He knows very well, because he's a sport enthusiast, that you never get results if you don't invest in sports. Government recognizes that, and that's why they're putting in extra efforts, extra money, to see to it that our teams get not everything they need, but most of the things that are needed. But that also, we are not going to focus on one sport or sporting discipline. We're going to look at all the other sports that are being done in this country.
For the first time in the Gambia, your favorite GSM operator, Africell, is the first and only GSM operator to launch a brand new technology called the eSIM. The eSIM can walk into any Africell customer care center and activate your eSIM today. With your virtual Africell SIM, you can use more than one number without having a physical SIM card in your phone. Enjoy this brand new technology for the first time in the Gambia, brought to you by Africell. eSIM, your phone without a SIM card. For more information, please call 111. Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Sorry, so we are having some issues with the internet in Gambia today. You will have to bear with us. But now I am joined by the Director of Communication at the Gambia Football Federation. As yesterday, President Adama Barrow invited players, the country's players, to State House to give them money. But the senior team, they boycotted the event. Apparently, they are not happy with the sum of 11 million. Mr. Kamala, thank you for coming.
Lamin, good to be on your show. Thank you very much.
So, why did the players refuse to go to State House to meet the president to present this money?
But I think yesterday, even before the presentation, which was held at the presidency at 3 p.m., we also some data circulating on the social media to be from the players, which I can confirm that is true. I mean, it actually came from the players. They wrote to the president of the GFF that they are not going to honor the invitation. I mean, they respectfully turned it down because according to their letter, it is not about money for them. I mean, the efforts and the achievement of the senior national team. That's why they said they will respectfully turn down the opportunity to meet with the president. And this is what happened. So there, myself, I was there, the team manager and some staff, as well as the technical staff and players of the under-20 team were all in the at the State House yesterday. But the senior team players, most of who are in town, obviously, today they even played a test game with Fortune Football Club, did not show up for the meeting with the president.
I think I was one of the few journalists who first stumbled upon this issue of the players feeling hurt, according to people familiar with the issue, that they felt insulted, that despite all the sacrifices they did for the country is giving them, I mean, that is not much, right? You are saying in their letter, they said it is not about money, yet it is about money. How do you explain that?
Well, first of all, Lamin, you have to understand something. Before going further, our senior national team of recent, I mean, we know that for the first time in the history of Gambian football, a chartered flight has been prepared that took our players to the competitions that we were in since the appointment of Mr. Bakari Baji as the minister. I was with the delegation in Congo Brazza DR. Even we are not Brazzaville was Kinshasa rather was closed because of the COVID. I mean pandemic. Most of the officials that were supposed to sort out those issues were not at work, and we waited for hours. But then, because we had a problem with his passport, so these chartered flights and ensuring that they are paid camping allowance and match bonuses have definitely helped, and that is what culminated to the qualification of the senior national team for the very first time. We have seen the tremendous investment being done by the minister. However, that being said, we have to also understand that when the players say it's not about money, for me, I agree with them that it's not about money, because I will give an example of and I have been briefed by issues, and I've also been in consultation with the team manager, who is the direct link between the federation and these players. It is not as if we have direct links with these players and we can impose anything on them, because these are professionals. But for me, it's also not about money, in the sense that if you take Omar Colley as an example, who gave about what, $500,000, you know, donated for the fight against COVID-19, and then the highest that anyone can get about the money given to them is about what, $300,000 of the players here. Now, what happened was that you know, when the senior national team won, a lot was expected, and this is the first time, and this is historic. And the past presidents also do not help millions. In 2009 also, by the former president. Now, I'm not trying to compare the two government or even the two presidents here, but I'm talking about the past presidents. In 2009 as well, when the team won the African Under-17 Championship in Algeria, each of them were given $1 million, each member of staff, both the playing and the technical staff. You understand? And these are Under-17 who are not supposed to be paid in football, because in youth football that is developmental, and you do not even get anything from the organizers of the competition if you've been at that youth level. But senior team is a completely different matter. So this past president equally as well, I think the tensions were there from the beginning, because what happened was that when the players secured qualification, they were invited to a dinner.
Yes.
I think it could have, it could have been the best place also to make an announcement as to what the boys would have gotten, or even if the boys were presented these monies at that time, I don't think there would be much noise about it. Yes. You understand? You know, so that's my opinion. But I think I agree with the players, because when you look at what these players receive as campaign allowance and as much bonuses, come on, if not for the love of their country and if not for the patriotism that they have for their country, they may not even honor international cups compared to what other countries are getting.
So take us through these bonuses. I mean, how does it work? Because how much you are talking about expectation there on the side of the players. Because really this was a problem. As soon as Gambia qualified, there was a dinner that was organized for these players. These players expected their money at that dinner. There was even a small, you know, problem around that. They expected, and then the government came and said, okay, we are going to defer this to June, July. That is when we are going to pay you. So in terms of the expectation, how much was each player expecting as his bonus?
Well, I think what another problem, I'm not sure what amount do they expect entirely. But again, you know, the last team to qualify was Sierra Leone. And Sierra Leone were given $10,000, an equivalent of what, $500,000. And each were given 200 properties by President Madabio. And it happened at the same time. And when you are in some of these WhatsApp forums, you will see that some of them are pressure groups. And there was a lot of pressure in those WhatsApp forums that our players should be remunerated. They should be given qualification bonus. And then it coincided at the same time. And a lot of comparisons were made. However, we do not have to compare our situation to that of Sierra Leone. We know that governments are not run as clubs as well. We have to understand. I've never worked in government, but I also understand that governments operate in ways that they fund their programs based on priorities. And we have a government also that has to prioritize other areas. I mean, that is not only sports, like the health infrastructure, the education, and even the agriculture. So the government's thinking, I am not in their minds here to know what they are thinking, but maybe their thinking could be that this is what they can afford at this particular point in time. But going back to that scenario that you mentioned, yes, that happened as well. The players at the dinner, because speeches were made, and then and it also goes down to expectations. There was no mention of the bonuses that were going to be paid to the team, and at one point they walked out. So you could see the tension was brewing, you know. And then I think everyone should learn from this situation. You know, some things have to be done at the right time as well. I think my opinion is that if it had been done at the right time, well, definitely we could have averted this situation. You understand? It's very unfortunate and very regrettable.
Now here is this thing then, because you have the players, they clearly weren't happy with what the government wanted to give them. Right, and you have the Gambia Football Federation. This is the federation that deals directly with the boys. You are saying that they wrote the letter to the president and not Gambia Football Federation.
The president of the Gambia Football Federation, I mean.
Of course, the president of the Gambia Football. Then, from that, I mean, one can say that the federation was aware of the boys and
the position of the boys.
Position of the boys and their position. Now, I mean, in terms of showing support to the boys, what has the Gambia Football Federation done in supporting them to the extent of taking this money that the boys don't want?
Well, we have to understand that this is something that definitely put us in a very, very, very precarious situation. In as much as we understand the feelings, the grievances and the sentiments of the players, which we respect as well, we also have to understand and respect the authority of this country. I mean, I don't think anybody would putting on a rational thinking cap would expect the president of the GFF to turn down an invitation from the presidency.
Why not?
Come on, I mean, first of all, I think for us, I'm not referring to the players, I'm referring to the federation. I think it will be disrespect on our side to refuse to meet the authority of the country when we have been invited. One. Two, the Gambia Football Federation, in the running and in the general administration of our football, is independent from the Gambia government, but we are not financially independent from the Gambia government because we do not even have the capacity, but the human and the financial resources to charter a flight that is going to take the players to go and play in competitions in the first place. We rely solely on the support of the government to fund the activities of the national team. And even the last training camp, when the government paid about $22 million, $22 million for the team's training camp, paying of match agents, camping allowance, of an agreement with these players. It was a tripartite agreement between the players, the GFF, and the government of the Gambia through the Ministry of Youth and Sport, that any match that they win, we played, that they were not going to pay the match bonus this time around, because according to them, they have constraints in terms of resources, and the campaign also, the AFCON proper, would require a lot of resources, which I understand their position, and you have to respect that as well. But that cannot also stop us from playing these matches, because at the end of the day, these matches are very, very important in terms of our preparation and our progress and sustainable development as a federation. So unfortunately, we could not tone it down. That is two examples that I've given you, two scenarios why we cannot tone it down. And the third one is that we have to understand the fact that the government of the Gambia is the authority in this country, and no football can be played in this country without the authority of the Gambia Football Federation. So you do not want a situation where the Gambia Football Federation would go into confrontational with the government, because what happened was that you could see that something strange happened. The president was present at the presentation, but he did not deliver a speech. Instead,
do you think he wasn't happy?
Exactly. I want to believe that he was not happy. You understand? Is
that why he didn't speak?
It could be, because I have not seen a situation where somebody who is especially
naturally the president would always speak at
exactly
events,
but when he's there, but he was there, he did not speak. Instead, Ahmad Ba, the tourism minister, spoke on his behalf. So it could be that he was also not happy with the decision of the players. So if at all we had a role to play in this, where does that leave us? In a very, very, very funny situation.
But don't you think it would have made more sense for the president to simply address the situation as, hey, look, I know the boys are not happy, but I want them to understand this is the situation.
Well, I am not the president. I cannot speak on behalf of the president. But if I were the person, if I was in that kind of a situation, I think I would have done what you said. I would have addressed the matter, and then, because this kind of situations also, there is always room for negotiation. And I'm glad to tell you that the Gambia Football Federation is engaging the players
because clearly they are not in agreement in support of this meeting or whatever that is happening at this meeting. You went there, the team manager took this check, took this money on behalf of people, a group of people who really do not want the money.
A group of people. We have to understand one thing here. It is not everything.
How do you explain that?
Yes. It is not everything that we can come and sit here and also state.
But transparency says this is very important.
Yes, but listen to me. You will listen to me, Lamin. It's not everything that I can also disclose here, because some are very confidential and sensitive information that is not even good for the interest of the Gambia national team. And I have that responsibility to ensure that I do not give any information that is going to jeopardize the Gambia national football teams. But we have to understand that in every group, situations like this may not necessarily be a unanimous decision. But once a group of people come together for a collective interest, and the majority wants a decision to be made, then even if you are not in support of that decision, because the majority wants it, that is democracy. You have to go with the majority. You understand? It could be.
What do you mean you have to go with the majority? Because here, look, all of the players are in town. They are on holiday in
Not all of the players are in town. Most of them are in town. But we have to understand that the letter that was also sent was not signed by any player. You understand? Even though we know this is the position of the players. It was the position of the players, the majority of the players. You understand?
So that is the majority. You are saying it's the majority of the players that signed up to that letter.
Yes.
So that means...
But I don't think every member of the national team was also in agreement, number one. And number two, the money is not meant for only the players, but that of the technical staff as well. And the technical staff did not state anywhere that they do not want the money. You understand?
So they are taking the money.
The reason why we went there is to respect the authority, one. Two, collect this money. We collected this money on behalf of the players. We did not collect it on our individual capacity. That was why it was not even collected by the president of the GF, but rather the team manager, who is responsible for the administration of the team. He is the one who pays these players in any engagement they are in. And then that is why we are engaging them. And there are already positive signs that the players will accept the money and peace will eventually
you are saying that you are negotiating with them for them to take this money?
Because, listen, we have to understand, Lamin, we cannot go, we are not financially independent from the government. In fact, we are not even entirely 100% independent from the government. We don't want a confrontation with the government in this kind of situations. You understand? I know, and like I said, for me, I feel the players and their grievances and their sentiments. Like I said, it is not about money for most of these players. When you look at the composition of the national team, most of these players are playing at very top leagues who are paid a lot of money. I mean, when you come to our own, the Gambian standards, you understand? Some of them, it's not about that money, but it's about a matter of principle. And then, according to that letter also, they do not want to set a bad precedent. You understand? So, it's not about the money which is being small, but they feel that their efforts definitely is more than what has been given to them based on past precedents. So the precedents are always are always a problem. So there would have been much noise.
Broadcast stopped. I don't know what can you look at that? So let's continue then. I was asking you about
heads being rolled or fear of losing our jobs.
Yes.
No, President Barrow do not determine who is appointed at the GFF, who is even elected. Like I said, the Gambia Football Federation is structured in such a way that there is a supreme body that is called the General Assembly, and the you understand? And the Regional Football Association. Each of the 7 regions have a Regional Football Association, and we also have 5 allied associations that are the referees, the coaches, the Players Association, and the School Football Association, and which is the 5th one. We have about 5 allied associations. So these people compose the General Assembly of the Gambia Football Federation, and they elect the president and the executive members of the Gambia Football Federation, and it is the responsibility of the executive members of the Gambia Football Association to appoint the secretariat staff. So government do not determine who is appointed. They cannot even influence. They cannot fire anyone as far as Gambian football is concerned. So there is no such thing like fear of losing our jobs, because you take your job from someone who you have the authority to give to, but they have no authority also to give us any job or to fire us from our jobs. So there was no such fear. Because
so what is it then? The fear of GFF losing the money that the government gives it? Listen,
when you look at the leadership of the Gambia Football Federation, you know that our president is a diplomat par excellence. I consider him the most diplomatic Gambian in this country. That's my opinion. You understand? He is seasoned in terms of diplomacy. And these are situations where you see his true leadership.
That is your president of your...
That is my perception about my president.
Yes.
Not President Barrow, but my president at the Gambia Football Federation,
exactly.
Mr. Bajo.
Yes.
That is my perception about him. And I have seen situations like this. There are always tense moments. And it always requires his cool head and his calm demeanor
Yes.
to be able to meander through
Yes.
and come to an amicable solution where all parties, I mean, because in this kind of situation, no party is a winner,
Yes.
but no party would also be a loser. And it was, I mean, based on those leadership instincts that he has, and out of the respect for the authority of the Gambia, not to be in confrontation with the government. Because if we are in confrontation with the government, yes, we can implement our programs through our FIFA support, but can we develop football? No. There will be no sustainable development. We know in the beginning of this coalition government, when Henry Gomez was the Minister of Youth and Sport. Now, with all due respect to him, he came without an idea about sports in this country. He came with this agenda without even listening to the GFF. And the agenda was that he said government football was at 0 and he's going to take it to 100%. That these people are not working for the interest of the GFF without even listening to them. At one point, in fact, the first time ever that he came to visit the GFF, he came unannounced and he just went in and started looking at our toilets here and there as he should have. So those kind of moments, we have seen a situation where he even went to the extent of suspending the leadership of the GFF, even though it was a mere suspension on paper, it was never effected. You understand? But those moments also, because they were very tense moments, there was too much uncertainty, there was too much agitation, and football suffered during those moments because the government are not going to release their phone under those circumstances. And if the government do not invest in football as we stand, then we are going to take many, many steps backward in the absence of sponsorship in our football. Because right now we do not even have a sponsorship. We have an African Cup of Nations. That is a whole different ball game.
Yes.
The standards are high.
Yes.
We are not going to the AFCON to make numbers. We are going to AFCON to represent our country
Yes.
with distinction.
Yes.
And it requires a lot of resources that even the government alone would not be able to provide. But that government's contribution is very, very, very important and paramount to our successful campaign in the AFCONs. So we cannot jeopardize that situation also.
Yes.
Definitely speaking, we cannot jeopardize that
Now let me ask you this then, because you just talked about investment and the need for government to support the federation, football. I mean, and yesterday the sport minister said the money that the government has been putting or pumping into sport has never happened throughout our history in the past. It has never happened. I mean, and this is why we are also reaping the goodies vis-a-vis Gambia qualifying to AFCON. Is this really true? Is this true?
Well, I do not have the statistics to back the claims made by the minister, but I also know that the minister was also speaking based on solid grounds, because Lamin, we also have to be fair to this government, especially during the time of Hadrami Sidibe, and that been taken to another level by him, Bakari Baji. Even though there are still some issues and some challenges that we face, serious ones for that matter, but we also have to be fair to them in that aspect, that they have understand, as ministers, they have understand the need for investment in sport. Because, during one of my casual conversations with him, I was with him this past Friday in a football final at the Gambia College. And then he said in one of his, to invest in football, which includes the chartering of a flight. And then he's been vindicated. We've seen the result. At the level, he was comparing different governments. Okay, at the individual level, when President Jammeh used to give players millions, that is another aspect. But I think as a government, they have done a lot also, even though there is still more that needs to be done. Like I said, the training camp, just concluded one in Turkey. They could not pay the bonus of the players. So that has to be borne by the federation. But I think in all fairness, they've been doing a tremendous job in terms of that. It is just that this one is an unfortunate situation that happened. The players were expecting more. I think the players were expecting not only even cash reward, but they were equally expecting landed property rewards as well. You understand? And I understand also there were high hopes of that being also given by the government. What happened along the way that there was no mention of that yesterday at the presentation, I don't know. I do not work in government. I don't even know what happened. But I think based on past precedents, that is what also led to this problem. Because the players' thinking could be that in 2005, if the government at the time could give $1 million to developmental players, what about
those are the senior level?
What about 16 years later, the senior national team, for the very first time in the history of the Gambia, qualifying to the competition that matters?
Yes.
What about them? I think they were expecting even not more, but at least an equivalent of that. That was, I think it has to do with the expectation, you understand? And also the players also, I think they also want to use this as a form of a pressure to ensure that you know, certain things will improve. Because I mean, of course, with all honesty, there has been remarkable improvement, you know, in terms of national team. Because like I said, we agree with them on their bonus and allowance structure. You understand? And as I'm talking to you, no player is owing the GFF any money. In the past, that used to attain. I remember when Mr. Bajo took over as the president of the GFF, there were backlogs of claims that players came with. The Gambia Football Association and Confederation at the time were asking players to pay their tickets, to travel for national team duties on their own at their own cost, promising them to be refunded. They came with those claims, even train fares as low as €20. Some players came with it, but we paid and cleared everything. Even though those costs were not incurred during our time, we cleared everything, because when Mr. Bajo and his team took over, it was they decided to open a new page for Gambian football, and that was where we started. And we have seen that definitely those commitments and the investments over the past 6 years have culminated to where we are today.
Now, on the issue of the AFCON, Gambia qualifying to the AFCON, in terms of the preparation, how are things shaping up? How are things looking like?
Well, in terms of the preparation, the technical preparation is ongoing, because we played 3 matches against opponents that are higher than us in the FIFA ranking, Niger and Togo, as well as Kosovo. They are ahead of us. We are just 152. So we played 3 matches, won 2 and lost 1. And this is only the second time ever also that the head coach Tom Samfie lost a friendly match. In fact, he won, on average, he won more matches in his 3 years as the head coach of the Gambian national team than the 10 years prior to his appointment combined.
How about Coach Paul Pot?
He has a better record than Coach Paul Pot. I mean, in fact, I think he is undoubtedly the most successful coach in the history of the Gambia. That's not even open to subject to debate.
Of course, he took us to the AFCON. So
exactly. So that's not even open to debate, and that is why we rewarded him with a 5-year contract. You understand?
How much are you paying him?
Well, I am in no position to state his salary. Where some people in the media who have contacts pay.
So people used to pay the coach.